Welcome back to Light Talk, where the paranormal and the supernatural is a part of everyday lives. Well, today we have a very awesome guest. I am so excited to have her on the show. We're going to have such a beautiful, exciting talk today. So let's get started. So I want to welcome our guest. So go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, Dana, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to just share some stories and some experiences that I've had. So I appreciate being a part of your show. I am Felicia Garrett. I am by profession, I'm an emotional release practitioner as well as a body code practitioner. And for the last 13, 12 years now. And so, what I do is help people to release trapped emotions within their body. And then I also use transformational techniques to just really help people cleanse old energy from the body to release trauma and trapped emotions. So that is my practice and my profession. But in my personal life, I've experienced quite a bit of metaphysical experiences with ghosts, with aliens, you name it. And I believe some of it really sparked up and experiences increased when I started my training in emotion code and body code. And it really made me a little bit sensitive to energies and made me more perceptive. And so it is the beginning of my practice that I really believe that it really started to ramp up a little bit my connection with the paranormal.
That is awesome. That is awesome. How about we start at the beginning? How did you first connect with ETs? What was your first experience? We'll start
Well, my
there.
first experience, if it's okay with you, I'll start with just a few stories of in using emotion code and how that sensitized me, made me more sensitive rather. And that what really started to ram me up to later in life experiencing more ET experiences. But when I first started doing emotion code, and I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Bradley Nelson and his emotion code. Techniques of how you can use kinesiology and muscle testing to really connect mostly with yourself and muscle test on your body to identify trapped emotions within the body. Well, in order to become a practitioner, you have to go through the training and then you have to practice on quite a few people to go through that practice. And so I did that, like I said, about 12, maybe going on 13 years ago. And when I first started, one of my biggest experiences that I remember is being in my apartment. I was at the time a single mother, and it's so weird. It's gonna sound crazy, but some people upstairs were being intimate. And I was in the bed, it was late at night, and in my mind, I was thinking, I will just be glad when they're over because I want to go to sleep. So, if you're in an apartment complex, you can kind of hear things. And so I was just laying in bed thinking, I'll be glad when this is over. And when I had that thought, I kid you not, Dana, I literally felt this energy come from the ceiling all the way down to the corner in my bedroom. My back was turned, but I could feel this being, the strong presence of this being right behind me coming from upstairs in their bedroom. So I opened my eyes and immediately I looked over to the door and that energy switched from behind me immediately to right in front of my bedroom door. I opened my eyes and I didn't see anything, but I don't know if you've ever experienced where you don't see something, but you feel it so strong you can almost see it there. And so I'm sitting there looking at nothing but feeling all of its energy. And in a split second, it's like it jumped on me. Now, I come from a Christian background, so in my mind, I'm thinking this is a demon, a spirit, or something. And it seemed like it was wrestling with me a little bit, but I was like, I cannot wait till this thing gets off of me because I am. I was upset by this time. So when I finished a little bit of my wrestling, and honestly, I was trying to call Jesus. I was like, something, anybody, come, Jesus, come help me. And as soon as the energy cleared off of me, I jumped out of my bed and I said, don't you ever do that to me again. Don't you ever jump on me like that again. And it may sound crazy, but I went to the front door, my front door of my apartment, and it's in the middle of the night, but I opened my door and I said, if you don't get out of my house, don't touch my children, don't ever come into my home again and do that. And then I went upstairs and I checked on my children, and that was, I would say, I hadn't experienced it. It felt like sleep paralysis. Have you ever heard of like people experience sleep paralysis where they feel stuck, they can't move? I couldn't even speak or say anything. I was just trying to call on the name of Jesus while I was in the bed, but I couldn't say anything. And since that day, I've never had that strong of a what people would call sleep paralysis. But that was a beginning of a very strong experience that I had with the paranormal. So after that, I didn't have much of an experience, but I kept on with my training. And one of the biggest things that came out later in my training is I ended up meeting my current husband. We've been together, I'll say about 9 years. And when we got together, I was kind of wanting to show him how this works and the type of work that I do. So we were dating at the time. We were sitting in my apartment on the floor. And I said, I'm going to do a body code session on myself and let's just see how it goes. And so with that, you start to muscle test. And I started to muscle test. And my question was, is there anything that's in my blocking me from being fully open in this relationship? And when I said that, I muscle tested, and what came up was a miasm. Have you ever heard of a miasm before? What
Uh-uh.
came up was a miasm. So a miasm is when we can have trapped energy in our body from our ancestors, and that energy can pass down to us and through us from some trauma that they experienced that they never were able to heal. So when it said miasm, Dana, I'm not joking with you. I felt this being come in and sit right next to me. And my husband and boyfriend at the time, he felt it too. And we both just looked at each other like, oh my goodness. So then I muscle tested and I said, well, how many generations back does this miasm go? And it said 5 generations. And I kid you not, it felt like the room filled up with 4 more people, and I could feel all of their energy sitting right next to me. Well, I got freaked out because I hadn't fully gone through all of the training yet. So here I am flipping through the book, like, oh, what do I do next? What do I do next? And so I'm reading through it, and I was like, oh, I had the thought, I hope I don't run this man away. you know and so he's feeling this presence too. And then I was reading through the notes and said, you want to identify how many generations, which I've done, 5 generations. Where is it in the body? So I started muscle testing. Is it, my lower body, my legs, my upper body, my torso? And when I got to my torso, I said, is it in my heart, my chest? And when I said, is it in my chest, or in my back, rather, it's in my back, it muscle tested strong that yes. And I kid you not, it felt like somebody took like a rod, and it was hot, and I felt it sear into my shoulder. And I grabbed my shoulder. I was like, oh my gosh, like I could feel the pain of it, not to the extent of what I imagined it was. But then I had an immediate inner knowing that this happened from someone 5 generations back, and it was a branding, and they were branded, and this brand never healed. And so I started to do the emotional release where you use magnets to help neutralize the energy within the body. And particularly, there are meridian points in the body, and the particular place where it happened is connected to my heart meridian. And because my question was, is there anything that's blocking me from being more open and more receptive in this relationship? And I had a block in that space. And when we did the clearing, it cleared that energy. And I can say, from that point and releasing that, once I released it, I felt I'm not a seer currently. It may grow and develop, but at that point, I hadn't developed that yet. But I have this inner knowing where it's almost like a conversation can be happening within me. And I felt all of them. It's like they did this and they bowed to me and they were saying thank you. And I felt them one by one just leave the room.
Oh,
I was freaked out. Both of us were freaked out. I will tell you, we went to bed that night kind of quiet, because what do you say? I was just like, that was wild. But I will say, since that experience, I and my husband and I have a relationship with my husband that I never even knew existed. I grew up with such trauma throughout my relationship, throughout my father, my brothers, just so many issues with the masculine energy and the men in my life. And I had never seen a healthy, loving relationship between a man and a woman. So to have the marriage that I have right now, the connection that I have right now, I believe that experience played a pivotal point because it cleared energy that was blocked around my heart and that was trapping my heart from being more receptive to his compassion, to his love, to his gentleness, because I hadn't perceived that in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was
Wow.
one of our wild experiences. And so this actually happened right before another experience that I had with him when we were dating. My husband at the time, well, my boyfriend at the time, he was the director for the School of Metaphysics in the location, the area where we live. And so he was all open to all of this metaphysical stuff. He hadn't had direct experience with ghosts or entities or anything like that, but he had a depth of awareness of metaphysical principles and things like that. And so we used to host a radio show together. And while we were dating, this was actually before we were dating. And so I was at his place, and we could not think of the next show that we were going to do. So he said, let's go upstairs in the place where he was staying. And he was staying at the School of Metaphysics, and they had a home there. And that's where he lived as the director. He said, let's go upstairs and let's just meditate. And let's try to see if we can focus in and get clear on an idea of what our next show would be. Because I know you being a podcaster, I don't know if you ever have difficulty coming up with, what's going to be the next topic, what's going to be the next guest. And so that's what we went upstairs to meditate on. And it was a pitch black room. So we were meditating, and I kid you not, I felt this strong energy come in and sit right in front of me. And it felt as if it was heaving, like it was mad as hell at me. And I kept my eyes closed. And then I felt another energy come and be right by it. And I can feel, and I knew that this energy wasn't as big, it wasn't as strong, but it felt like it was tagging along with this larger energy. And they
Hmm.
were both sitting in front of me, and I could feel him heaving, like he was so upset with me. And so I didn't open my eyes. I was scared, but my husband is like 6 foot, he's a big dude. I felt kind of safe but afraid. And when the meditation was over, I looked over him. I said, you have two spirits in this house, right? And he said, there's been some strange things happening in here. I said, there are two ones. One is really big and one is a little small, and they are here in this house. Well, after that experience, things would happen and things would fall off the shelf. He would start to hear noises in the house. And he was in the process of transitioning out of that position. And he ended up leaving. He ended up moving to his own apartment. Well, I went to visit him at his new apartment. And I said, hey, let's do a body code session. Dana, why did I say that? So I was like, let's just do it. Let's just see, I'm practicing this thing. I haven't finished my certification. I could really use that. So I started muscle testing, and what came up in body code was an entity. It came back into the room strong, and it came and stood right by me, and the smaller one too. And they were so mad. And so I got scared this time. This time I was scared because the lights were on. I could see. And I said, they have followed you to this apartment. It's the same ones that were at the School of Metaphysics. So we both kind of looked at each other in this eerie way. So after that, he started to experience the same things. Like paper would just come off if it's a paper that was sitting on the counter, it just fly off. He would feel a presence in there. So both him and I said, okay, we got to figure this out because we end up doing the emotional release. We end up doing the release that the instructions said do. So we
Right.
did that, but he still kept experiencing these odd things. And so we started doing research, and we just started looking up, what are ghosts? What are entities? Why are they here? And we started to learn a lot. So we called on one of his other metaphysical students, and we said, hey, we're going to do a seance. Or something, like, we need this energy to move through. And what we learned in our studies were that energies can get trapped here. If there is a person that, let's say a person lived with depression for like 30 years, when their body, when their spirit leaves and go to wherever it goes, if they've been living in a state of depression, anxiety, worry, whatever it is for many, many years, it can create a life form of itself, an entity. And that entity, that energy only knows what it is. It is the embodiment of whatever that emotional frequency is that the person was holding. And so what it can do is go about, and they're around us all the time. But so that's why it's so important that we keep our vibration up, that we are tapped into our bodies, that we're allowing emotions and energy to flow through, that we're processing them and healing them, because entities can come and attach to us. Okay. So this particular one attached itself to my current husband. So we called our friend in, and we were like, hey, can you come in? We're going to do a seance, because this energy has to move. He just moved into the apartment. There's a lease. He can't go nowhere, and he's
Right.
not going to be bullied.
Right.
So we did what we knew to do from the movies and the things that we read. So, we did it at night. We lit some candles, we said a prayer, and we are all sitting around in this circle. And it got so cold in this one room that we were in. It was cold to the point that we were shivering. And then I didn't know it until now, but until then, though, I could channel, and that entity came right inside of me. So all I could feel is what it felt. And I was conscious, I was aware of myself, but I was aware of all of this energy. So the friend that came, he started asking questions, and the entity started communicating through me. It was so wild. And he started asking it questions. And this entity had been abandoned. It had experienced neglect from childhood, and it was very angry about it. And why it connected to my husband is because he didn't grow up with his father at all, and they had no relationship. And he struggled with that most of his life, all of his life. He had struggled with not having his father, and he felt neglected because his father did totally abandon him and totally neglected him. So that entity connected to my husband. And my husband turned to me, and he spoke to it. He spoke to me, but he was speaking to it. And he started to say things like, you can choose to heal from this. You don't have to stay in this state. I am doing the work to heal myself. You can do this too. And so we did what we learned. You're supposed to open up a portal of light. You concentrate your energy on light, and on light meaning the other side, the other realm, and you draw that energy in. So that's what we did. And I kid you not, the cold went away. And because I can't see, none of us saw this light, but we could feel this light in the corner of the room expand out like this. And I literally felt this energy pull out of my body and go into the light in my body. It just, it was just
Yes.
the strangest thing, but I could literally feel the warmth. I felt it move out of my body and go into the light. And then the other entity was the energy of depression. And so we gave that attention to, and we sent both of them into the light. And then he
Oh,
never had that issue again. Isn't that wild?
oh, that's so
So
sweet of you
crazy.
guys to do
Yeah, it
that,
was
to help them.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we thought, man, this is awesome. So I don't know, it wasn't even a year. We started being like little Ghostbusters. And we had gone to several houses, and I had similar experiences, but nothing that strong, where we helped to clear energy from people's houses. And we just did that, like, I would say maybe 4 times. 4 times we went to different spaces to help clear the energy. And then we had the thought, you know what? I really don't want to do this anymore. Even though that type of work and people who do that work is phenomenal, because if you're able to clear low vibrational energy that's stuck on the earthly plane, and you're able to help it to go into the light and to transmute that energy, it is beneficial not only for the people that it's connected to, not only for the homes or the things they can connect to different you know pillows, dolls, different things. That's why I do not go into antique stores, because it's eerie. I can feel things. It's very uncomfortable because entities can connect to items too as well. And
Right.
so that was the experience that I had with ghost. Some of the experiences I've had with them. I even
Yeah.
have more. I mean, it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah, you have
wild,
a
but
lot.
those are my experiences with, yeah, with ghosts. And so if anyone ever experiences that, fear feeds that energy. And so the
Mhm.
more we cannot be afraid and we can be in a state of wanting to serve, then it can help to transmute the energy and cause you to no longer be a vibration to that entity. So then it can no longer keep remaining attached to you. But fear does feed it.
Yeah, that's what I've
Does that make
heard. That's
sense?
what I've been learning. Yeah, is that same
Mhm.
kind of thing. I've had
Yeah.
the opposite experience from you. Of you had the entity leave your body. I
Uh-huh.
had my body returned back into me, and that felt like the movie Ghost. That comes up a lot. The movie Ghost.
Yeah.
When he gets into her body and she kind of wiggles like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how I felt. It felt like that jello
Yeah.
motion that I did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So I totally get it. Anyone who's doing this type of work or has this level of sensitivity, is so important to know how to protect yourself, how to not operate into fear, to really have a state of autonomy, a mindset of autonomy that this is my body, this is my own. You cannot occupy my space if you choose not to. And we can just say it in an authoritative way, and most entities do respond to that. If we believe it in our heart that we have that level of authority to reclaim our energy and draw it back into us, then these entities, if we direct them, if we command them to release attachment, they do have to follow that. Okay. And it does help when we have people around us that have that level of awareness, and they can help to increase our vibration, increase our love, and increase the light, so to speak. Then these entities can fall off and can fall away.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And when you do that, when you send these lower vibrations on, it
Mhm.
does clear and helps the vibration of Earth and the cosmos when you do
Absolutely.
that. I mean, it just spreads everywhere.
Yeah, it ripples out. It ripples
Yeah,
out. So it doesn't just help the individual that's releasing that energy. It ripples out and it clears the earth plane of this lower vibrational energy. And the more we can do this work, then the more it helps to raise the consciousness and the awareness and the awakening of the people here on the planet and the planet itself. And
right.
so that's one of my desires to support that. Um, with entities, are with alien beings. I don't even know what you want to call them. I don't know what to call them. I've never had an interest in aliens or ETs. I've never explored it other than watching ET in movies like Alien or Predator or something like that. I've never had an interest in it, but I have had some experiences with it. And it started with a story that I similarly shared with you when I got on my YouTube feed a video about Palladians. And I'm not familiar with Palladians, Arcturians. These are what some people call starseed beings, and they are these alien beings. Many of them, in my reading, they are here to serve the planet, and there are some that are not. But most of them, I don't want to say most of them, but some are here to serve, some are not. And so I just started listening to this video, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But lo and behold, I get home, and it turned out that my husband had been watching a video like some days before that. So we started talking about these Palladians. And while I was eating, we were eating dinner, I could feel this energy rumbling in my stomach, and I could just feel, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like it was a little bit different from the ghost figure or the entity that I experienced before. It felt very different. And I put my plate down and I told my husband, I said, something's happening right now. I don't know what's happening. And I remember going and laying down on the couch in the living area. And I said, oh, it's getting worse. I don't know what's happening. I don't feel good. And so he said, let's get up. Let's go into the bedroom. And we got up, we went into the bedroom, and my body just started itching. It was the weirdest thing. I just started itching like on the inside and just feeling very, very uncomfortable. Let me, very uncomfortable. So I don't know what this means. And if any of your viewers know what this means, I am open to any explanation. But while we were sitting there, we heard like a helicopter. It sounded like a helicopter right outside of our bedroom window. And it wasn't one, we're waiting for it to pass over, but it never did. It just hovered. It sounded like a helicopter, but it sounded like this big plane or something, and it didn't move. It didn't fly over. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this is it. It's over. We about to get caught up or something's about to happen. And I wanted to get up and go get the kids, but we were just kind of stuck just looking at each other. And I'm thinking, this is it. This is over. And then finally it just passed over. I don't know how long, maybe a minute or so. Then the sound just went away. And I was like, that's it. I don't want to know anything else about these Palladians, star seeds, whatever the case may be. And whenever anyone would bring it up over like the next year, I would just be like, la, 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 la. You know, I don't want to hear anything about it. I don't want to interact with it. But and after that, what started to happen was entities would just come into my body and would just sit in my body. This happened for about a year and it's so odd. I don't know what this is about. If any of your viewers know what this is about, I'll be open to this too. But it would happen a lot when I was eating. I would just be eating, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, "Whoop, okay, here comes one." And it felt like they would just come and sit in my body. And it's like they just wanted to feel. I wasn't communicating. It was like it wasn't telepathic with words, but it was telepathic with feeling, and I could feel what they desired. And some of them just wanted to feel what it was like to be in a body. So it's like I would just be like, oh, and like they would just be like, oh, this feels good. Or I would have moments where I would just burst out into uncontrollable laughter, or I would feel really, really sad, and I would have no reason to laugh, no reason to cry, they just wanted to feel. And so after about a year of this, I got tired of it because I felt like, how is this serving me? How is this serving the planet? I don't see the benefit of it. I started to feel like I was being used. And so one day this happened. I was laying in bed, and my husband worked like third shift at the time. So when I would go to bed, it would just be me by myself. And I remember turning the lights off, and immediately I felt one of them come into the room. And I kid you not, I feel like my higher self rose up out of that bed, because some of the words that I said, I don't even think I had the thought or idea of it, but I sat up and I spoke with this divine authority. And I told them, this is it. This is the last day. No entity that is not resonating at 900 or above has permission to enter my body. If you do not operate at the level of consciousness, of Christ consciousness, and you're not here to raise the vibration of the planet, you have no authority over me. You cannot enter my body again. And it stopped at that day. And that was like 6 years ago or so. And that day I have not had that experience again. And so I just want to even encourage once again, people that may be listening to your show, is that we have authority over our bodies, over our spirits, and we can decree, declare, and speak what it is that we want, and we can reclaim our power. Because when I did that, that was over. It was done with. And since then, one of the most wild experiences I had with aliens, ETs, what do you want to call them, is that my husband and I went to sleep one night, and we sleep in a room in pitch black dark. So you can close your eyes and open your eyes and you wouldn't know the difference because it is so dark in our room. And we got into bed, we said goodnight, and I had my back turned towards my husband. And it was almost like he said goodnight. And then within 30 seconds, I hear he was asleep. He went to sleep. He goes to sleep so fast. And that is something that I definitely envy of him. Because he goes to sleep so fast. So here I am just laying in the bed waiting for my sleep to arrive. And while he's laying there, I just hear him say galactic. And it was in that type of tone. It wasn't like galactic. It was like galactic is what I heard. And I thought, oh, I just thought maybe he was dreaming. And so I didn't turn around or turn over, but then I felt like it felt like his body kind of, his arm shot out and he started to shake a little bit. And when he did that, I turned over, and I kid you not, standing right next to his bed was this darker, blacker than black, thin being that had to be like 8 foot tall. I mean, its head was all the way up to the ceiling, and it was leaning over my husband, and it was doing something to him. And so I'm looking at this, and then it looked at me and it noticed that I saw it. And so within a split second, it was right in front of my bed. It didn't walk to the front of my bed. It was like, boom, it was right in front of my bed. And then it leaned over like this. And it was so weird because it was so thin. It was this thin being with this big head. And it leaned over, and telepathically it said to me, I heard it in my mind. It said, "Do you see me?" And I said, "Yeah, I see you." I mean, I just said it in my mind, like, "Yes, I see you." And when I said that, it set up real quick. My lights flickered in my bedroom. My TV came on, and it was like shh across my TV. In a split second, it was on the side of my bed. And I started to do that similar shaking that my husband did. And then it was over. I jumped up and I was like, "Wake up, wake up." I told my husband to wake up. And I said, "There was an alien just in the room." And he was like, what? And I turned the light on, and I said, "It was an alien by the bed. Are you okay? Do you know what happened?" He felt nothing, heard nothing, sensed nothing, saw nothing. He had no recollection of anything that happened. And so he was like, just wanting to go to bed. And I'm like, no, like, it was an alien just in the room. I didn't know how to process that. But because he had no recollection of it whatsoever, he was over it already and ready to go back to sleep. Man, I snuggled up so close to my husband. But this is the odd thing. I really wasn't afraid. I don't know why I wasn't afraid, to be honest. And as I have listened to other people talk about aliens eventually going to be visiting the planet, making their presence more known, I used to listen to Bashar. Have you ever listened to Bashar?
Yeah.
The Indian. So he's been
Yeah.
sharing how I think in 2027, more entities and aliens are rather going to become more present here on the planet. And he has talked about how important it is that we not be afraid. And I remember hearing this after that experience, and I thought, you know what? I'm so grateful I wasn't afraid. I don't necessarily welcome it and say, "Oh, aliens, come visit me in the middle of the night."
Right.
I'm not necessarily open to that experience, but I don't have a fear of it. And I didn't feel that it meant any harm, if that makes sense. I didn't feel like we were in a state of harm. I felt like it was doing something, reprogramming, rewiring my husband. And later, as I shared with you before, we know some people who can do Akashic readings, and from the School of Metaphysics. And we connected with a couple that had been doing it for like 25 years. And they affirm and confirm that the experience I had was real, and that they were doing some reprogramming on my husband at the time. So that was a wild experience, to say the
Did they
least.
do any updating or anything on you since you were doing the shaking and all too? So were
I
you
don't know.
part of that upgrade?
What was told in the Akasha is that I was caught in between dimensions. So, on the dimensional level, things are going on all around us. Even right now, I'm seeing you, you're looking at me, but there is a whole nother world that's operating right in our sphere, right within that, right around us. And we may not have the perception to see it, to hear it, to interact with it. And what was told in the Akashic reading is that I got caught in between, not caught, but I was able to see into another dimension that was happening simultaneously. And what they did was, the reason I started shaking is they were pulling me back into the current dimension in which me, Felicia, the entity of Felicia, is in. So they were pulling me back into that dimension so that I wasn't seeing in this other dimension. They pulled me back in. So my nervous system was impacted from pulling me back into this current dimension that I'm experiencing right now.
So do you
So that
think
was what happened.
do you think your husband was taken?
I don't believe he was taken. What they explained is that they were upgrading him. So my husband, he works by night, but by day he's a trader. And so when he had first started trading, we had great plans of, we're going to get this land. I don't know if other people think like this, but we're like, oh, when we get rich, we're going to buy this, we're going to do that. And he's pretty good at what he does. And so we have been making all of these plans to, live more of a lavish life. And what they were upgrading within him is his soul came here to, I don't want to say came here, not for this one reason, but for him to learn more sustainable living. And so they were upgrading and reprogramming him and putting him back into alignment with what he's really here to create in this time, in his life experience, to be more self-sustaining. And so since that has happened, listen, if anything happened, electricity, the grid went off, we good. We are straight. My husband has learned how to create electricity. We can have electricity for months within our home through solar panel, through generators that he has learned how to operate and to keep together. We would be lit up. Okay, he has learned how to make water from the dew and has learned how to create water from that. He has learned how to grow plants. He has this big office and he's learned how to do hydroponics. So he has learned how to do all of those things. So if shit hits the fan, so to speak, we would be able to sustain our life, because over the years his total attention has turned towards learning how to create sustainable living and to live off the grid if ever need be. And I do think that that is something that's prevalent throughout the world, that many people are being awakened to learn how to care and tend for yourself and not be so dependent on society. I think that's going to play a huge role in the survival of many, and it's learning how to live off the land, how to live from the earth, and not to just take from the earth, but to live from the light of the sun, to live from the soil, to live from the water that can come from the earth, and how to honor that water more. And so he's been learning those things throughout the years.
That's cool. I do seem to notice a lot more gardening happening when
Oh
we go
yeah.
on our walks. Just today we went on a walk and we saw one house that had chickens. So I hear
Mhm.
of several people having chickens, so
Yes.
I see that. I see that happening. And we have a
I
good
did.
sized garden
I did
too.
end up getting some chickens. I
Did you?
said I tried to jump on the bandwagon with them. So I have two large beds, raised beds in my backyard. I am not, he's the better grower than I am, but I still plant something every year. But I'm here in the Texas area, so it's really hard to plant in the summertime for me, my experience, because it's so daggone hot. But my winter gardens do pretty good. But I ended up getting chickens because I thought, let's get some chickens. So we live in a subdivision, and so the HOA does allow us to have chickens. So we got that squared away. We went and bought chickens, and they were so cute when we got them. I don't want to touch them. We have 4 children, so they just
Yeah,
loved it. So we got
yeah.
everything, Dana. We got the lights. We got the big old tub, and we put it in my laundry room because I have a huge laundry room. And so we put them in there and they just started growing. And the kids would take them outside, let them run around. And I thought, I'm going to take the chicken poop and I'm going to make compost and I'm going to let it just, my garden is going to thrive from it. Chicken poop is gross. Okay. It did not work out the way I planned. First of all, it's a whole technique that you have to create that and use it for your garden. But I didn't know that. So I walked in my home one day, and when I walked in and it smelled like a farm, that was it. I called the place that we got them from, and by this time they were pretty big.
Getting bigger.
I couldn't find a chicken coop without spending thousands of dollars out. It needed to be a cute chicken coop because we have our backyard is so pretty. So I'm like, I don't want to build one. I want a beautiful chicken coop. But I didn't want to invest in it. But when I came in the house and it smelled like a farm in my house, that was it. I called them that day and I said, these chickens have to go. Do you know anybody that wants chickens? And they said, yeah, we know somebody that lives out in the country. I packed those chickens up that day and all of the investment with them. I called that lady. She said, yeah. And me and my kids dropped them off and they were like, they were sad. And I didn't care at all because they were not going to be in this house. It was just, but you are so true. Like, we do want to have the space and the land because one of them did fly over the fence and got into the street and the kids had to go get them. So doing it here in like a subdivision, it's not the best place to, have them. So we're going to have to wait till we get some land out in the country to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, this place
That is
here
that.
had it all fenced in and everything. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
they had it
great.
all done. But yeah, growing up, we had chicks. We went to
Yeah.
church with my grandma one time for Easter. They gave two chicks to every child.
Wow.
So there was six of us kids. So we had 12 chickens.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we brought them home to our place and we kept them until they got too big for us, in the box, like what you're saying, in the box of the lights and all of that. And
Yeah.
the worst part about it is when they get too big or when they get to that point,
Yeah.
um, my family did all of that.
Yeah.
My uncle took care of the heads, and my
Yeah.
grandma and mom was all in the basement plucking, and it took me a while to eat chicken again. It
I
took me a
haven't had a
while.
problem eating chickens, like it was so good. But they used to get into my garden and they would just take their wings and they would just burrow down into my garden. And I couldn't stand that. I did not like that either. They were just a nuisance. So unless, I have space again and I can just put them in a coop and they can still run around, I am done with the chicken life. It's not for me. It's not for me. But those are some of my stories with ghosts and with ETs, so to speak, some of them.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I have to go back to the feel, excuse me, back to the feel of being brought into the body and taken out of the body. That
Hmm.
to me was just a crazy feel.
Yeah.
You think you see it in the movies and you're like, oh yeah, whatever, they're just making it up. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, that's
No,
exactly how I felt.
I had a similar experience to that. It was after a plant medicine retreat. So I like to host, or I have done I think like to this day, like 14 ayahuasca retreats in the last 10 years. And so after one particular plant medicine retreat, I came home and I went to sleep. And when I woke up in a state of my spirit coming back into my body and it slammed into my body. And when I woke up, I knew that wherever I was the most amazing, phenomenal, beautiful, loving space that I have no words to describe. And my first thought was, I didn't want to be back in my body. I couldn't believe it. I was so like, what the hell? Because it felt amazing where I was. But I did have no memory of what it was, but I had all the feeling of what it was. And wherever I was the most amazing existence ever. And then I felt my husband next to me, and immediately deep guilt set in because I thought, how could I want to leave my husband and my children? And I ended up taking his arms, and I locked my arms with his arms because I didn't know if I was going to leave again. But I wanted to stay, but I wanted to leave, but I wanted to stay, but I wanted to leave. But I locked my arms in with him because my spirit came back into my body so abruptly. I didn't know. I could even feel my spirit kind of waving back and forth. Like if I wanted to release my consciousness, I could have went back into the experience because I could feel my spirit waving. But because I had that thought, I can't leave them, and I locked it in. I was able to pull my spirit fully back into my body and then rest there. But that was a wild experience too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when I
Yeah.
was gone, I didn't realize I was gone until I came back. But when you look back, because at the time I was working very strongly of trying to form a single word.
Mm.
It was like I was just energy. It was almost, I was only that thought. That's all I
Mm.
was. I
Yeah.
wasn't, I wasn't in my body. I feel like I was like back behind me
Mm-hmm.
and back like in the back seat of the car. And I was the driver, by the way. So I was like, this was like, but it was like I was only that thought, only that concentration of trying to say the word.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody,
It
but
does.
that's how it felt for me. It's like, but I didn't realize I was out of body or anything like that. I just
Uh-huh.
had that sense. And then I was slammed back in my body, like we're saying. Um, and then I was open my eyes and I was like back. But yeah, that was the strangest feeling I think I've
Yeah.
ever had.
Yeah. And I think we forget things. Many experiences happen to us while we're sleeping. We forget them because honestly, this is my perception. We wouldn't be able to handle what's really going on in the spirit realm and still be able to consciously live in this life and this experience and get up and go to work, take care of our family, live this life with a level of awareness in the places that we go and the experiences that we have and the things that we can potentially see in other dimensions. And so we forget. And I think it's a gift to us to forget. But I believe that we are in a time and era where it's important for us to remember more of what we are. And be able to harmonize more with that level of awareness of what we are and still be able to live in this human experience because we are truly fully divine and fully human all at the same time. Okay. And we have to be able to harmonize with both of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And for a lot of us, that's kind of tough. You know, when you're starting off, you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, you just do this or you just do that."
Uh-huh.
It's like you don't just do this and just do that. You know, it doesn't work for everybody like that. So some people have to really work at it and go
Yeah.
through this for years on end trying to build. That's me. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, some people can probably, you know, just do this and just do that and this will
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But it takes a
Well,
while for some.
some people have lifetimes where they have cultivated their spiritual strength. Some people have reached enlightenment in other lifetimes. So my understanding is we build up that sensitivity over years. There are some souls that may be older than other souls and that have experienced more lifetime experiences, or they may have chosen to come through a lineage where there's people who have been psychics and psychic mediums. And so that level of understanding and that teaching can be passed down to them from children so they can have a greater sensitivity. So that's why sometimes I've taken some classes like with channeling, and I agree with you. Sometimes people are like, well, just do that. If you just meditate on this, if you just do that, no. you probably have lifetimes of experiences of doing and connecting with the spirit realm, or it's in your lineage. And so some people do have to cultivate their gifts and cultivate their abilities. Now, I do have a belief that we all have access to those abilities because, as I said, we are fully human and fully divine at the same time. So we have the potential to cultivate them. Some people don't have to work as hard at it as other people do. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right, exactly. And you do
Yeah.
have that point there, I haven't been thinking about that, but yes, that's a point. They have many more past lives and
Yeah.
much more practice with it than I have. So, and like
Yeah.
others have. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I won't say those are all of my stories, but those are some of the juicy ones. Some of the juicy ones.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, if you're wanting to come back, I'd be happy to have you come back and tell some more of your stories because
Well,
I know
thank you.
you have
Thank
more,
you.
and that would be so exciting to hear them.
Yeah, when I do other get on other podcasts, and I've had a podcast before, and sometimes I what I really like to talk about most is the practice and the work that I do. But a lot of people want to hear about my plant medicine experiences or to hear about the similar things that we talked about here on the show because that's of great interest to people. But it's not like something that I go out and I try to make happen or even try to cultivate in my life. I have a belief if I just keep doing what I feel that I'm here and I'm purposed to do, which is to help people to heal some of these wounds and ancestral wounds, clear some of this energy so that people can raise their consciousness, so that they can raise their vibration, so they can learn to hold a higher vibration, then it ripples out and it does help to bring healing to the planet. The more we can heal ourselves, the more we can know ourselves, identify the wounds within ourselves and heal those wounds, we are serving humanity. And so that's a huge part of what I believe I'm purposed to do here as a soul, and more so women. A huge part of my focus is really to help women to heal some of the wounds that they have experienced over the centuries, and to heal some of that. And so that's a big focus of my practice. And I find that when I just focus on my purpose, then these other experiences just come. I don't have to seek them. I don't have to look for them. I don't try to create them. I'm not afraid of them. But the more I do the work I'm here to do, or that I believe I'm purposed to do, I do feel empowered when those situations do come. That makes
That's
sense.
awesome. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense. Yeah,
Good. Good.
excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on the
Yes,
show. Do you
so,
have
yes,
any
so.
last
Well,
things you
I
want to
will
say?
be having in what I do and what I practice, I said I'm really big on helping and assisting women to heal. What I have going on next year, and what I have been doing are retreats for women. So I do have one coming up in January 8th through the 11th is a detox retreat. And in this retreat, there's a 4-day retreat. It's here in Corinth, Texas. And all of that will be on my website at FeliciaGarrett.com. So that's FeliciaGarrett.com. And so I have all of the retreats that I'll be doing in 2026 listed. And I'll be launching the detox retreat in September, the 1st of September. But in this retreat, it'll be women coming together. All of them will be small because I do like the small groups because you can do so much. But we're going to be doing a lot of education on how to detox the body because many people do want to have these spiritual experiences like what we talked about, but the more toxic our physical body is, the harder it is for us to hold a higher vibration, for us to hold a greater sensitivity to the higher frequencies that do desire to communicate to us and communicate through us. So when we can lessen the toxicity within our body, because we're inundated with it, we're inundated with EMS, we're inundated with it within the soul and the food that we eat, the lack of nutrition, the American diet that we consume. It is all around us every day, even in the things we put on our skin, our perfume, our cologne, our lotions. Our bodies are just taking in all this toxicity, and people don't know how to, in a healthy, gentle, but powerful and consistent way, flush toxins out of the body. And so at this retreat, we're going to be doing some intermittent fasting. We're going to be doing some juicing, eating healthy 1 meal a day, lymphatic drainage, saunas, foot detoxes, breath work. And we're going to be doing a lot to clear the body physically, emotionally, mentally, clearing the body out, and then giving people education on how they can keep their bodies healthy and clean and detox throughout the year and the years. And so if anyone's interested in that, they can just go to FeliciaGarrett.com. That's one of the retreats. And then I have others coming up in the year on helping women to heal from abortions, because a lot of women that have had abortions. Some women are okay with that. And there's some women that really carry a heavy weight and a heavy guilt and a heavy shame from that. And so I really want to support women in clearing that energy from the body. And then a divine feminine women's retreat in June. And then in October, an ancestral healing retreat, because just as I gave the example of that my 5-year ancestry energy that was trapped in my body, blocking me from creating a loving relationship with my husband, those energies can impact us greatly. And many people in our society right now are we are here to be cycle breakers. It is time to break cycles in our family lineage and to change behaviors and pathology within our family units. And so in September, it's going to be Ancestral Healing Retreat. And then in mid of October, we'll be healing from sexual trauma. So these are women's retreats that are coming up in the year 2026. And so people can check that out on my website, FeliciaGarrett.com.
You're awesome. You're doing wonderful work. I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you.
I love it. So yeah, I will have the notes and everything, and I'll have all our information in the notes below. So
Okay.
if you have any questions or anything, please reach out to
Yeah.
either one of us and we'll get you in touch with her. So yeah.
Yeah. My email is just getunstuck@FeliciaGarrett.com. So people can email me as well or access that email on my website.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
Okay.
thanks again so much
Thank
for being
you.
on the show and telling
Yeah.
us what you do, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that can use your help.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
I
here
may
to
be
serve.
one of them.
All of us can use some emotional
Yes.
release. I tell you, all of
Yeah.
us can use it. And so
Yeah.
thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to go down memory lane, some things I had totally forgot about and hadn't given much attention to. So I'm very grateful to have had the experiences that I've had. So it's good to go back and remember them and reflect on them and feel the gratitude for them. So thank you for that.
Oh, you are so welcome. You are so welcome. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank
So,
you. I appreciate it.
all right. Well, thank you for being with us. If there's anybody else out there that has any stories you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com and we'll talk and we'll get you on the show. And so we will talk with everyone next time.
All
See ya.
right.
Bye.
Bye.